But for me right now, this would be maybe a little bit like I dipped into a bag of Cheetos. Since I've started using it, it's become one of my all-time favorites. But this one, the texture comes off a lot more skin-like. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Personal Beauty. I'm your host, Shannon. Today, like our influencer network said, we are going to be putting our top foundations to the test, but these are not just ordinary foundations. So something a little bit more specific to Korean culture would be the cushion foundation. So for cushion foundations, they look like this. It kind of comes in a little compact. I want to give you guys a quick little history lesson kind of about where these come from and why they're kind of a ingrained part of Korean culture and kind of where they stand versus other typical types of foundation. So this episode is going to be a little bit more makeup focused. I hope that that's okay with you guys. So typically when we think about foundation or base makeup, if you guys aren't sure what that is, we typically think of like a liquid format. So this is usually something that you would squeeze out either onto your hand or onto like a plate, and then you would use a beauty blender or a brush to kind of blend it in. But in this case, it's all kind of compacted in one little device right here. So you guys can actually see they're tiny. It's actually about the size of my hand. So I will be getting into a little bit more about each of these and kind of why I brought these two, why these are my favorite, and all of that. If you guys have any questions or comments, you guys can feel free to drop it down below. We do have a live chat. I love hearing from you guys, and one thing that I do like hearing from you guys as well is where you are from. So make sure that you drop your country flag and say hello from wherever you're from. So to kick off today's episode, like I said, I did want to give a little bit of a history lesson kind of about where Korean cushion foundations started and how they've taken the world by storm since. So around 2007, Amore Pacific started doing a little bit of research on a way to kind of make it a little bit more efficient to wear makeup every day. So typically in the Korean culture, you might have heard of the concept of 빨리 빨리. So usually this means kind of hurry up, let's go, fast moving, fast paced culture. So for women, typically or traditionally, they would want to prime their skin, use a sunscreen, a tone-up cream, and a foundation to color correct their skin. But that takes a lot of time and a lot of different products. So Amore Pacific started doing some research in around 2007. By the year 2008, Ep.8 was the first brand to debut a cushion foundation in a compact like this. This one is actually what I would consider a summer shade for myself. It's a little bit too dark for me right now, but I will be showing you guys a little bit how it works. So right away when you open up the cushion, it is a little bit smaller. There's a compact little puff right here on the end. This is one of the things that makes the cushion foundation so unique. This particular little puff is actually very, very thin. You can see that texture there. It's really soft, it's really small, and it's really thin and silky. The purpose of these is actually not to absorb as much product. And when you're opening up your cushion foundation, you're gonna use it on a sponge here. So this particular sponge is a little bit more liquidy, I would say. There are some that have sort of a fabric top. It just depends on the type of finish that you would like to go for. Sometimes people like a more matte finish. Traditionally speaking though, these cushion foundations tend to be a little bit more of a natural finish or sort of a glowy type finish as well. So just to demonstrate, I'll show you guys a little bit about how it works. You just press into the cushion foundation here. Then from there, you'll actually remove the excess onto the back of the pan. A lot of people actually take this right onto their face, but then they end up having a little bit too much product and it becomes hard to work with. It also looks a bit thicker and a little bit more cake-like. So once you remove that excess product, you have a little bit remaining on the puff here, and you can just pat it onto the back of your hand. So this particular one, like I said, is more of a summer shade for me. This one actually is a little bit tan because it oxidizes. Oxidation when it comes to makeup, you guys, typically means that it turns sort of orange, which is not bad for the summertime. This is great for that nice glowy undertone. But for me right now, this would be maybe a little bit like I dipped into a bag of Cheetos. So you guys can kind of see that finish there. I'll put this down and show you a little bit more clearly. So this finish is a little bit more glossy, a little bit more glowy. Of course, there is no sort of base on my hand. I did not do a full skincare routine or use primer here, but typically this is going to have a little bit more of a glowy finish. Plus, I find it a little bit difficult in the summertime where here it's very humid. Really difficult to kind of deal with that greasy, wet look. So I wanted to go for something with a little bit more of a natural finish, and this one was the most top rated on sites like Huawei and Olive Young. So this is the one that I reached for. Since I've started using it, it's become one of my all-time favorites. You can see that this one is well loved. It's a little bit more beat up. This is in the shade 21N1 Vanilla, and this would be my winter shade, or what I'm wearing now. So this puff is a very similar style. It's really small, very slim, very thin, and the actual cushion, you can see the little emblem right there. This one does look a little bit drier by comparison because this one is a little bit more used, but typically speaking, you can actually see there's not much left. I actually need to get a new one at some point. But typically speaking, this one's actually going to come off a little bit less wet. So I will have to remove the excess here. There is a lot of product, even though it doesn't look like it. And then when I use this one on my hand, you're going to notice that this one blurs a lot more quickly. I'll use the other side here. Okay. So right away, this one is kind of blending in with my skin tone a little bit more. Like I said, this is the one that I typically reach for. But this one, the texture comes off a lot more skin-like. So let me show you guys here. I don't know if you guys can see that. The comparison, this one is definitely a little bit thicker coverage. This one's a lot more skin-like. Even in texture, the way that it feels, this one just feels a little bit lighter, a little bit more comfortable. This next product here, this is actually something that is not a cushion foundation on its own, but it's something that I found really unique. I picked this one up in Olive Young. This is just an additional compact cushion. Actually, what I use this for is blurring other products together. So for example, this would be things like liquid blush, blurring that out and trying to match it with foundation and make it look a little bit more smooth, a little bit lighter, a little bit more blended, more natural. Also, I use this one particularly for concealer. So concealer for me, because I have very deep set eyes, tends to crease right underneath here. So Korea actually has these really cool puffs. Compared to the cushion foundation, this one's actually a little bit thicker. Also, if you look really, really close, I don't even think the camera would pick it up, but there's very tiny holes here versus the typical one, which is a little bit more like a silky type of cushion feel. So this one does absorb a little bit more product, but I find that this one blends a lot more seamlessly, especially when I have things like primer or sunscreen on underneath. So this is also a staple for me. I'll see if I can blend this out and maybe show you guys a little bit. So here you go. I'm trying to blend this darker foundation into my skin a little bit more. This one is just going to blur it and kind of prevent it from sinking into the creases of my skin. I can already see the difference. I don't know if you guys can pick that up on the camera or not, but right away this takes away that really glossy shine, and this makes it look a little bit more flat, a little bit more soft as well. So that's one of my favorite things. I do carry this one with me, especially on days when I know I'm gonna wear makeup or if I know I'm gonna sweat. A lot of times in the Korean summer when it's very hot and humid, you need some touch-up items, and of course a compact is a really great option for that. Like I said, the entire ideology behind this invention was being able to have something that is unisex, something that is compact, easy to use. All of them have sunscreen in it, SPF 50, I believe, and this one is PA+2, this one is PA+4. The PA+ actually represents the lifespan of the sunscreen, so both of these do take into account some protection, not just making your skin look a little bit more perfected, essentially. So definitely go check them out if this is the one that you guys are most interested in. Otherwise, some honorable mentions, of course, would be the OG, which is Ep.8. Like I said, they debuted their first one, I believe it was like airbrush cushion, back in 2008. So shout out to Ep.8, you guys really kind of set the standard and really set these apart from different types of foundation. But anyway, these have kind of really perfected that sort of convenience option, as well as being good for the skin, and of course it's buildable, touch-upable, and it's portable. So I don't necessarily think I'll ever move away from cushion foundation. To me, this is kind of the perfect option. So that is a little bit about my standpoint on that. So anyway, you guys, we are going to wrap up the episode. Thank you guys so much for joining this live. We love hearing from you guys, and thank you for supporting Koreanet as well as myself. We will see you guys next week for personal beauty, and yeah, bye. See you next time.